there is a museum in Croatia dedicated to failed romantic relationships. People submit objects of importance from previous relationships alongside notes explaining their significance. The items are often inscrutable before reading the explanatory text, which opens them up as a window to the past. Whether it's a history of heartbreak or the collective habits of a whole group, the stories and emotions around items can support them like invisible scaffolding. Without the myths and justifications we all share every day, objects can sometimes be hard to decipher. There is a silent understanding that the exercise bike is just more useful as a clothes rack, or that your child's awful drawing is worth pride of place on the fridge. In the puzzle game A Monster's Expedition, writer Philippa Waugh uses unspoken stories as fuel, the Museum of Puzzling Exhibitions, where monsters try to figure out what humans are all about by looking at displays of their leftover stuff. Her texts create a mix of the mundane and the bizarre to present real and fictional objects with accompanying commentary from baffled monster curators. These little commentaries mine humour from the myths and mistakes of us humans, a mysterious long-gone people who the advanced monsters are doing their best to understand. With only objects to examine, the monsters can't see the silent part of the design, the emotive communal part, the true secrets of how human lives might have felt. Both the Museum of Broken Relationships and the Museum of Puzzling Exhibitions highlight the ambiguity of design, with items that are mysterious, stripped of the emotional context that would explain the desires and motivations they represent. So when it comes to the complex piece of design that is a video game, how can such obscurity be avoided? In the gameplay of A Monster's Expedition, you have a similar quest to that of the museum's monster curators. You have to interpret and understand the design of an absent creator. For the player, it's the puzzles, designed by creator Alan Hazelden and his team. Thankfully, this task is easier because, unlike the detritus of humanity, the game is designed specifically to communicate. A Monster's Expedition attempts to be highly expressive, to ensure that not only is it communicating the mechanics of the game, but also inviting you to share an emotional framework which complements these mechanics. We can see how the game creates this supporting structure through all the levels of its design. The game teaches the initial puzzle mechanics of pushing trees and rolling logs completely wordlessly, saving in-game text solely for the aforementioned museum exhibits. There's a point where the basics of the game system have been covered, and a player could begin to feel that they've got the hang of things, probably within the first hour of most playthroughs. At this point, something unexpected occurs. A new mechanic is demonstrated in a clever way. I must pause a second here to tell anyone who thinks they might want to play this game to go play it, because watching me dissect this moment is definitely not as fun as playing it for the first time. Go on, off you go. Bye now. Right, so this moment is great for several reasons. Firstly, because it is entirely based on your own actions. The game doesn't interrupt you or find a contrivance to send you in another direction. Instead, it lets you perform a perfectly choreographed set of puzzle moves that you may well feel at this point you're familiar with, and show you that you were wrong about what you thought would happen next. Secondly, rather than framing this revelation in the context of a single puzzle, it instead forces you away from the current island you're on, flinging you across the map to somewhere else entirely. Despite being so craftily engineered, it feels organic, and it suddenly makes the potential for solutions far larger. It makes the world far larger, both literally and mechanically. Of course, this is the moment that the game drops the Monsters Expedition title card, and it's well earned because it's such a joyously expressive piece of gaming. The harmony between the emotive and the mechanical is perfect, Now you're on an expedition. The playfulness of this presentation is thrilling, making you challenge the preconceptions you had already built and generating excitement about exploration. Such expressiveness is also present in other aspects of the game. There's an adaptive soundtrack which effortlessly moves between individual tracks as you travel the islands, accompanied by the noises of the sea and varying weather. Generally, when you're in the midst of one of the game's puzzles, a stripped-back ambient version of the music plays, with slow, lower-pitched tones allowing you to contemplate the problem in front of you. The music adapts and intertwines even further with the mechanics by having your actions cause additions to the tracks. Pushing trees and logs brings melodies ringing down from the higher registers, sprightly encouragement for your attempts. Even use of the undo button elicits a gentle cymbal hit, a percussive reassurance that mistakes are just parts of this song. The reset button produces the small gust of a calming outward breath, scattering your missteps away with the breeze whilst making it easy to focus and try again. It all helps bring a sense of purpose to everything you're doing, becoming an actual accompaniment to your specific actions. The visuals are just as charming, and there's detail here that goes beyond what might be expected. Moving into impassable terrain will make the monster strain against a log, or give a little kick to a pesky rock. Details like this are present in precursor titles such as A Good Snowman is Hard to Build, another Hazelden game featuring a similar monster protagonist, and in both cases they serve as useful acknowledgements of the player space. Whether it's hoping you can somehow push a hedge out the way or wishing a rock would just move to make the solution easier, this tiny detail acts as a wry acknowledgement of your frustrations whilst also gently encouraging you to keep thinking about the reasoning behind the puzzle's layout. When your monster comes to the edge of a coastline, you can move them again and they'll sit on the shore. They will wiggle their legs and sway contemplatively. They can also rest on some handily provided benches and can stop for coffee or popcorn at little stands. The inclusion of respite is another indication of the game's investment in being understanding of players, of recognising the two-way nature of communication. If you choose to take advantage of these restful moments and sit yourself down, then the overhead camera will gently pan out and the full score will play, letting you soak up the music and the world as they are both opened up to you. It's a totally optional moment of joy, a moment to appreciate the craft of the world around you without taking a step. Generally, the game alternates between allowing you to focus on the puzzle at hand and then inviting you to continue and broaden your horizons. This invitation comes in many forms, whether it's the aforementioned zoom out as you relax on a shoreline, the sliver of another island so tantalisingly close across the water, a fun-looking exhibit poking from the clouds, or the way the fast travel system reveals more and more of the map. The game's designers are always appealing to the player to take what they know and think further, larger. Much like in The Witness, a comparably open-ended puzzler, there's an idea that once you understand the mechanics on show, you can take a step back and apply them on a larger scale for the harder endgame puzzles. That once the spaces and mechanics are familiar enough, you will see patterns and solutions across larger distances. Alan Hazelden himself has stated that it's satisfying as a design to force your players to explore the state space as much as you have. All these moments of tantalising scale act as an encouragement to explore more, guiding the players along the path that Hazelden has also explored. There's closeness between designer and player in these moments. There's a sense that when you're attempting to discover these harder solutions, you've come to a higher stage in the relationship with Hazelden and his design. You've explored the state space as much as he has. There's a shared understanding there. You have manifest the same emotional investment as he initially experienced. Your exploration of these spaces and mechanics acting as a conduit for his own discoveries, joys and frustration. After enough head scratching, rock kicking, snack munching and reset button drumming, you have found a way through. In play, the dialogue between creators and participants transforms undistorted design into a joyously subjective emotional experience. The craft put into a monster's expedition makes the trivial log rolling feel important and meaningful. So whilst the game is technically a simple puzzle game with minimal narrative, it demonstrates how good design can create something more expressive and engaging than such description can credit. By being exciting, understanding, and charming, it manages to communicate a whole emotional system to complement its design and elevate it to be one of the best games I played this year. Thanks for journeying with me on this video. Shout out to everyone who worked on a Monsters Expedition, including Eli Rainsbury, whose Monsters Expedition soundtrack you have heard throughout. A link to purchase their music is below in the description. Please like, subscribe, comment and all that good stuff, it really helps a small channel such as this one.